Alright, so I'm pretty sure my video of the bevel box transfer case got ruined for whatever reason. The sound got messed up, so I'm just gonna kind of do another one. So let's begin. So here is the bevel box, or the transfer case, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a transfer case. First thing you're going to want to do is remove this axle. So just go ahead and trying to get this thing to stay, but it's kind of being a pain in the butt. So go ahead and remove the axle. You get the 24mm nut on the outside by the rotor, and the 3/16 down here on the control arm. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the triple squares on the inside. One thing I forgot actually is on the top of the front, this axle over here, there's I'm just gonna pull it off. And then, so what I'm doing is I'm going, you can see I'm kind of going through here with this tool. So you kind of go over on top of the control arm and then in between the subframe and stuff, and kind of get a shot this way. And then after you break them loose, you can just reach your hand up there. I'll show you what I'm doing. Before I break them, try to get them off. So this thing comes off, and then on top of that you have this bolt here. It has a little 8 in the end, and so it's in there like this, and then bolted like this. And I have this long extension, not necessary, but it makes it a million times easier, with this ball Allen from Harbor Freight. So all you do is you come in through the subframe and you get on there with a little weeble wobble and just break it loose. And there's 2 of them. One's easy to see, and then the other one's directly on top. It's a little harder to see. But all you do is you get on there and you break it loose, and then it falls down a little bit, so it's not butted up tight and straight. So what I do is I break these 2 loose, and it sags down a little bit, and it gives me just enough reach my hand up there, and then loosen them the rest of the way by hand, and then kind of just fall down. So that's that. And one thing I was thinking about trying on this one, which I never tried, is I'm gonna try leaving the transfer case on the engine and just taking this axle out, because this axle goes too far through unless you remove unless you remove the subframe. You're not gonna be able to get the transmission far enough away from the transfer case, because the axle that goes through, that's going into the transmission, sticks out too far. So yeah, the transmission, the shaft that goes through the transfer case, and then it goes through the transfer case into the transmission, it's too far for you to pull your transmission out and clear the subframe and get it down, because you gotta, it's just gonna hang out there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the axle out, and I'm gonna try just popping this. So I'll show you how I do that also. So there's this. So I'm gonna take these out, and then I'll pop this axle out. So let me go ahead and do that right now. This guy has massive rotors on there, so it's actually gonna make it a little harder. Let's see how I can do this. Go in through here instead. Ugh. You're gonna go ahead and take your end link off for your sway bar. So we'll then now dangle down there. And then so go ahead and just pull your control arm down here. Pull it out. And then your axle through. The axle's out now. So the next thing required is a super long, what really is required is this 6mm. This is a 1/4 inch that I have here, because the hole that you have to put this down up here is pretty small. So go ahead and get that. So this is probably about 12 inches, so let's see how far it goes in there. So like 3/4 of the way, and then you can see how much is sticking out now. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna get my little wrench on here. It's not very tight. So just stick, what I do is to hold it still, I just stick a screwdriver through one of the bolt holes. You don't really have to worry about stripping them out because, well, I get one that fits first. Just stick it through here and then go ahead and smash yourself. I don't know if I just broke it loose or not. I know my magnet went. Alright, after you got that center 6mm done, so go ahead and grab a pry bar and then get on there like this. And then watch out for fluid. Essentially just pull this, you just pry it out. You don't need I'm using a pretty massive pry bar, so you don't need one that big. Now this doesn't work like that on the Mark 5s. So on the Mark 5s, it hits the engine because it's too fat over here. I think it might even on the, Mark 6s. It will not clear here, so you're gonna have to break this loose first before you can pull it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I think, oh, you gotta take it off anyways to pull the engine. So go ahead and start with your 16mm. So you got 2 here and 2 mirrored directly on top. So you can either use a 16 or 8 ball in the middle. And then what I like to use is, these come in real handy for this, for going right across the top. So I got this one on here. So let's go ahead and take this off. The top ones are kind of hard to see, but if you come through here, if you move the rotor out of the way, since it's loose now on all of them, you can kind of see the top ones. They look just like these bottom ones. They're shinier than the rest. So you can go ahead and just reach way up there. Get it. See, these are the ones for the transfer case, which are, they kind of have a shoulder. So these are probably the hardest ones to get. I think out of everything. Because if you've never done it before, you don't really know what you're looking for. But like I said, if you just peek your head in here, kind of like, I'll show you how I had it. So here's how I'm looking at it. So I have my head above the control arm here, and you can look straight up there and you can see the top ones. I have an extension on here and my gun. And then the other top one, so I'll just go ahead and reach up there and grab it. It's gonna be the same long one again. And then now after that, you can go ahead and move to the lower ones. And since they're at the lower ones, you can just use a wrench on these. Oh man, my wrench broke. No. And they're kind of tight the whole way out. Like tight, but they don't like to just throw it out with your fingers. These ball Allens come in handy. They can't take much torque, but once you break something loose already, it makes it a little easier to do. These were my favorite tools when I worked for Audi. They help so much. So if you use them a lot, it pays off to get an expensive set. So that those four. And since I'm dropping the tranny, I'm just going to take this 18 here out. Like I said, I'm going to try to drop this transmission by leaving my bevel box. We'll see how that goes. I don't think it's going to go well. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to mate it back up. Really, the only thing left holding this is just the bracket, so I might as well just take it off. Alright, so the reason that... the reason that I'm just going to remove the transfer case the whole way is because I do not think... I'll show you what I mean in a second. Hold on, let me just take this bolt out and just quit rambling. God damn. Okay, that's a training bolt. Alright, so here, I think I can capture that here. Yeah, okay. So here's the last bracket that's holding your bevel box on. So until you take this bracket off, you can't separate it from the transmission. So what you go ahead and do is get your triple square for those, which I believe is bigger than the axles. The one for the axles is a 10. And maybe a 10. It's real tight in there also. And I think it varies from model to model. This is not the right size. Pretty sure. No? It's 12. I guess it's 10 for these. 10mm triple square. So this one varies from model to model because some you can't fit a regular socket in here. One. I'm pretty sure if I left this attached, it's not stiff enough that the transfer case would move on me and I wouldn't be able to get the training lined back up with it still attached. So if I left this, so what I'm saying is, if I left the transmission on the transfer case, or sorry, the transfer case on the transmission and trying to line the transmission back up, since there's splines on the transfer case, I wouldn't be able to get it lined up and I'd just fight it forever. So I think it's just a good idea to remove this thing. And like I said, it's different on the Mark V's. So now that I've taken that bracket out, this is free to fall. So what you want to do, or not want to do, is you don't want to let it tip over, because then you're going to lose a bunch of fluid. So just go ahead and separate it. Which that's as far as I can go. Okay, I didn't take those ones out. So let me take those out now. Sorry, I didn't take this bracket totally off. And these are a 16 here. And there you have it. There's that bracket. So what you go ahead and do is, now that you can separate that, go ahead and do this. But so this thing's gonna want to tip down. So if you just stick a piece of 2x4 in here, now it can't tip down and spill fluid all over your head. So now I just got the axles out. I gotta take these 16s out here on the bottom, and the training's ready to drop. But as far as the bevel box or transfer case, the next thing you'd have to do is remove your drive shaft. Just come through the backside with the 10mm triple square, then separate your drive shaft. Get a big pry bar or something, and then you just pry on the transmission. Just big to get it separated enough. You may, depends on your exhaust, if it's aftermarket or not, you may have to separate it. You shouldn't have to, because the whole thing will come forward, and then you'll be able to squeeze your transfer case out. It kind of takes two people. It really helps. I've done a lot by myself, but shoving a 2x4 between the tranny and subframe helps to give you enough space. So these are pretty small to slip them out of there. So that's it for removing the transfer case. Yeah. Let me seal this thing too. So there's this, the big one that runs down the middle. So here's the bolt that's inside here, and then it comes out the other end right there. So there is the 6mm that you need the small one for, because the hole is very small. It's like about as big as the head of this, which is about 6mm or so. I guess it's gonna be bigger than that, 8. So not a lot of tools fit there. Regular Allen, like that you get at Harbor Freight or whatever, won't fit there. So you have to get a special tool for that one. VW shows this big long Allen, but essentially you just need those 1/4" 6mm, and you'll be good with an extension. Okay.